Guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Florida Treasure Coast Market Update. Today we're going to get a little nerdy. Stick with me and we'll get into the stats.
You better get fired up!
Guys, happy Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday at 11 o'clock to go over the Port St. Lucie specific market update, giving you insight and education into what's going on in your market so you are a more educated buyer or seller. Today, we're going to talk about specific stats. A lot of times I like to get into the MLS and kind of show you what's going on with a different strata of the market. Maybe we look at golf communities. Maybe we look at a specific HOA. Maybe we're looking at waterfront. Today, though, I want to give you an overall picture of single-family homes in Port St. Lucie, and I'm going to show you how it compares month by month since January 1st. So I'm going to get in here and share my screen here. You can see these stats. This is something that I create, and I show my team this every single Monday at our Monday morning meetings. And you can see column O here on the far left is the first Monday in January, which happened to be the first. And column T is the first Monday in February. And the reason some of these are hidden is because I do this every single Monday. But then at the end of once we get a new month rolling up, then I hide those other months. So you'll see here, we've got the first Monday here in November. But then I've also got this week, right? That's why. So anyway, looking here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 10, 11 stats that we look at. Is that right? 14 minus 3 is 11. So we're going to go through these different 11. Again, this is January 1st. This is Monday 2 days ago, and this column right here, BJ, is the difference between Monday 2 days ago and January 1st. Okay, so let's look at actives first. Actives have gone from 1,388 actives on our market. That's homes for sale, Port St. Lucie, single-family homes, not condos, not townhouses, not manufactured homes. These are single-family detached homes. There were 1,388. Now there are 1,784, almost exactly a 400 home increase. That's a 28.5% increase year over year. Now, most of the year I've been telling my team, don't worry about that increase because you see it keeps going up, right? 1388, 1542, 1556, 16s. Then here we're into 1720. Now we're at 1784. It's a consistent rise, but it wasn't concerning me because sales were doing the same thing. Look, 442, 311, 414, 524, 624. But then all of a sudden here in September, we're at 631, which is the peak of the year. They started going down. Now, two things. Number one, I think it's going down because the market is softening a little bit. But I also think we tend to see this time of year. If I roll back, like we're missing B through O here, if I open that up and showed you the previous months, you would see that this time of the year, sales are just down. But usually listings are down as well. Right now, listings are up 28.5%. Sales are down 7%. That creates less demand, more supply, and a softer market, right? So for buyers, this is phenomenal news. For sellers, it's not so phenomenal news. There's different things you can do to be successful as a seller, and we'll talk about that at the end. But I break this down into, I just go two price categories, right? Up to 500 grand, 500 grand plus. And if I was going to list your home, or if you were a buyer with me working in a specific price point, I'm going to get even more narrowed down on that, right? If you're looking up to 450, I'm going to look 4.25 to 475. I'm not going to look up to $500,000 because we're comparing you to homes that are 300 grand and we're comparing you to homes that are 500 grand. But for the purpose of this, just to get a quick glance at what's going on, I always think of this as kind of that, potentially first-time home buyer and 500,000 plus. Rarely is that going to be a first-time home buyer for us. So you can see that actives, we were at 847, now we're at 1135. That's gone up 34%. That's gone up a lot more than the 500,000 plus, which was at 540. Now it's at 659, which is an increase of 22%. But both of them are definitely climbing. Here's an interesting thing. Median asking price has not moved. 469 back in January. The highest it's gone, without opening up the individual weeks, is 475. The lowest it's gone is 465, and it's still at 469.9, an increase of 0. Right? So people are asking roughly the same price. Now, what's interesting about that is we've got a lot more of these lower priced homes on than higher price. That tells me even though that number is the same, people are seeing a decrease in price. So in the last 45 days, Again, we were at 442, 311, 414, up to 624. Then it came down a little bit. Then it came back up to 631, but now it's dropping 545, 463, 411. Now, again, some of that is just seasonal. We see that every single season, but part of it may be a softening of the market. So I tell my team, you're probably not going to know until February, March. That's when we kind of see that increase. We can see what happens. Until then, we're prognosticating what we believe we're seeing in these stats. That's what I'm guessing. I don't think it's bad as it looks because some of that's seasonal, but I do think some of that is a general softening of the market. So up to 500,000, you can see that's the majority of that decrease in sales, right? The overall drop in sales is 7%, but up to 500 grand came down 7.8%, while 500,000 plus only came down 1%. That's very interesting. But you can see everything kind of peaks out in that June to September timeframe. That's kind of the peak, and then it comes back down. And then over here, it starts coming back up. We see it every single year. Median sales price, this is interesting. I really do think I must have pulled an incorrect number here in April because it was such a goofy number. Every other month, it's between 415 and 425. 420, 415, 420, 420, 420, 423, 25, 18, 15, 25, and now we're at 25. So not just is the asking price unmoved, but the sales price is unmoved. Yeah, it's up $5,000 to 1.2%, but it goes like this. So in my opinion, just looking at that trend, it's really not moving a whole lot at all. That should give a little bit of confidence to sellers out there right now. Now, inventory. We were at an overall inventory of 140. Let's explain what inventory is first. Inventory is with the current amount of listings that we've got on the market and the rate at which homes are selling. I'm looking at a 45-day span. How long would it take to sell all that inventory if we didn't take on any new listings? That's what this number means, right? The higher it is, the more of a buyer's market it is. The lower it is, the more of a seller's market it is. So right here, we've got inventory of 141 days. I'll tell you, I remember in the peak of the market, I don't remember when it was, but it was sometime around 2021. The peak of the market, the inventory was 19 days, 21 days. It was crazy. So 141 days is definitely good news for buyers. I would say that's more of a neutral market. I always say 3 to 4 months is a neutral market. 4 months is 120 days. This is a hair over. It's a hair into a buyer's market. But again, you're going to want to look at the price points, right? Because if we're up to 500,000 back in January, that's 110. That's a very neutral market, almost close to a seller's market. But 500,000 plus was at, man, I don't know if I can do math that quick, 8 months and 8 days. That is very much so a buyer's market. It was softer. Now, fast forward to now, we're looking at 195 days overall. I believe that's, let's see, 9 times 30, no, 8. Why would I do this math in front of you guys? 6.5 months. It's 6.5 months of inventory. That's unquestionably a buyer's market. It's not a crazy buyer's market. It's not a buyer's market where you can anticipate coming in 40, 50 grand low and getting it at all. That's not at all what that means. It just means you have time to think. Homes are selling in a month, 2 months, 3 months instead of, 21 days. And just like I said, when homes were selling in 21 days, this number is skewed by people who are way overpriced, aren't dropping their price, and they go on for 6 months and never sell. That brings the averages way up. The homes who are aggressive, price right, get great photographs, they've got great negotiators as their realtors, they're doing all the right marketing, attracting leads, they're going to be significantly under this. So you got to remember those two average out, right? So our inventory right now is at about 6.5 months, up 54 days from January. That first-time homebuyer market, that's up almost 5.5 months at 161 days, which is 50 days over what it was in January. And then when you look at the 500,000 plus, it just kind of bumped up because if you look back just to September, it was at 195, which was significantly under. Then it came up to 254, was steady at 258, and now we've got a month of 305. But again, we've got that seasonality that's kind of playing a part in this. So looking at all that, I think it's unquestionable that the market is softening. But looking at a lot of the other markets, and I'm not just talking about Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Miami, Tampa. I'm talking about New York, Texas, California, Illinois, a lot of the bigger housing markets that we're seeing. I'm seeing a softening that is, I wouldn't say scary. It's not like 2008 or anything like that, but it's a definite buyer's market. Whereas here, it's a hint. It's like a little drizzle of a buyer's market. And I anticipate that we're either going to see clearer signs that there's something negative going on to impact this by late February, early March, or we're going to see those numbers come up because of seasonality. So, in my opinion, it's really great being able to look at all this stuff and take it all in. But to know what it means exactly, I think we're going to need to see that season kick in where they're supposed to be going up, not down, and see if they truly go up, or do they plateau, or do they continue to go down. That's what's really going to tell us what kind of market we're driving into. Last thing I want to touch on is a lot of people will ask, and this was more so when I sold in Minnesota, but it still plays a factor here in South Florida. They ask, Joe, I'm going to sell my home. When is the best time of the year to sell? Or is Christmas the best time? Maybe I should hold off until the beginning of year. And in Minnesota, a lot of people just did not want to move when it was freezing doggone cold out, right? Who wants to move when it's 23 below? Yeah, 23 below in Minnesota. So a lot of people would wait until late February, early March before they would even go look, put an offer in, and then they could close late March into April. They were okay with that. Down in Florida, we don't have as much of that. Yes, we do have snowbirds that come down. They tend to purchase at the end of snowbird season after they've done all their research. It's time to go. Then they'll decide that they're going to get a place, whether it's a secondary home or it's at homestead property. And that's probably when we see that uptick in February, March. But I will also say this. In Minnesota, I always said you want to look at the inventory. Because you're right, there's going to be a lot less buyers in November, December, January. I guarantee it in Minnesota. You're going to see significantly less buyers in November, December, January. But what if, let's say it's a 50% drop, what if listings on the market, because everybody says let's come on in March, they all drop and it's a 60% reduction in listings? Well, now you've got incredibly motivated buyers. Your inventory is actually lower than it's going to be in March. Why wouldn't you go on at that time? Whereas in March, yeah, you're right. The buyers are going to come out of the woodwork, but so are the sellers. Your competition's going to come out. So what you should be doing is that analysis that I just did with you, and not just what's going on right now, but what did that look like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? What are the trends? Where do typically inventory rates look the best? If you're really going to get into it, it doesn't matter if you sell in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. That is what I would be doing. And you absolutely want a realtor who can clearly communicate the answers to those questions that you're looking for. Guys, if you've got any questions or you want me to dig into a different part of the Port St. Lucie market, let me know. And every Wednesday, again, we'll be here at 11 o'clock to give you the Florida Treasure Coast market update. Thanks for joining me.